In this chapter of One Piece, chapter 1160, we're witnessing history being made as the God Valley incident finally begins in earnest. We have 17-year-old Monkey D. Dragon shooting a celestial dragon to protect young Kuma, the shocking revelation that the Davy family are actually buccaneers, which means Blackbeard's mysterious body finally makes sense, and Dragon saving both infant Shanks and his twin brother Shamrock from certain death. This is the chapter that changes everything we thought we knew about these characters. Let me break down every single detail, theory, and connection for you. The chapter opens with one of the most emotionally charged scenes we've seen in this flashback. Shanks and Shamrock's mother, a member of the Figureland family, approaches a young Marine recruit named Monkey D. Dragon. She's desperate, and you can see it in her eyes. She begs him to take care of her children's future. Now this is crucial because Dragon is just 17 years old here, still technically a Marine, and this woman is a celestial dragon asking him for help. The fact that she trusts him with her children speaks volumes about Dragon's character even at this young age. What makes this even more heartbreaking is that we know from the previous chapter that Saint Figerland Garling is about to attack her. She knows what's coming. She knows her own family is going to turn on her, and her only hope is this young Marine who seems different from the others. This moment plants the seed for everything Dragon becomes later. The Revolutionary Army, his hatred of the world government. It all starts with this mother's desperate plea. From there, we jump straight into the horror of the native hunting competition. The Celestial Dragons have begun their genocidal game, treating human lives like sport. Young Bartholomew Kuma is among the targets, just a child trying to survive. And this is where Dragon makes the choice that defines his entire life. He raises his weapon and shoots one of the Celestial Dragons to protect Kuma. Now, there's been massive debate in the community about whether Dragon used lethal rounds or tranquilizers here. Some fans are convinced he used tranquilizers because they believe Dragon wasn't willing to kill before the Ohara incident. But here's what I think is happening. The type of ammunition doesn't matter. What matters is that a Marine, a supposed protector of the Celestial Dragons, turned his weapon on them. That's treason. That's a death sentence. Whether the Celestial Dragon lived or died, Dragon just signed his own warrant. This completely reframes Dragon's character for the entire series. For years, fans have criticized him for being passive, for not saving Ginny, for letting Kuma suffer. But this reveals that Dragon has always been a man of action. At 17, he didn't hesitate to risk everything to save an innocent child. The question isn't, why doesn't Dragon act anymore? The question becomes, what happened to transform this impulsive young rebel into the calculating strategist we know today? Here's where the chapter drops one of its biggest lore bombs. We get the explicit confirmation that the Davy family are buccaneers. This is shown alongside infant Marshall D. Teach, that's right, baby Blackbeard, and his mother, who's described as looking messy. This single revelation explains so much about Blackbeard that fans have been theorizing about for over a decade. Marco's statement at Marineford about Blackbeard having an unusual body. Being a buccaneer explains his insane endurance, his ability to tank damage that would kill normal people, and, most importantly, why he can hold multiple devil fruits. The buccaneer race has some special trait that Vegapunk hinted at, and now we know Blackbeard inherited it. But it goes even deeper than that. The name Davy itself is loaded with meaning. It evokes Davy Jones, the mythical figure associated with death at sea, with the locker where drowned souls go. This isn't just a random name. It's telling us something fundamental about this branch of the D-Clan. While the Monkey family fights for freedom, the Davy family seems connected to conquest and domination. There's this fascinating theory gaining traction that suggests the D-Clan isn't unified at all. Instead, we have two opposing branches, the liberation-focused Monkey branch with Garp, Dragon, and Luffy, and the conquest-focused Davy branch with Rox and Blackbeard. This would mean the final war isn't just D versus the world government. It's also an internal conflict within the D-Clan itself about what their inherited will actually means. The chapter then shows us the full roster of the God's Knights for the first time, including a new member described as a Yeti with horns. This is huge because it confirms the God's Knights were major players at God Valley, not just observers. They're being introduced with the same dramatic weight as when we first saw the Seven Warlords, which tells us they're going to be crucial to how this incident plays out. We also get redrawn panels from Chapter 1096 showing the convergence of the three major forces, the Rox pirates arriving to save their captain's family, the Roger pirates coming for their own reasons, likely to rescue Shaggy and Garp's marine fleet moving in to maintain order. This is the moment before everything explodes. Based on what we learned in Chapter 1159, Rox isn't the pure villain the world government painted him as. His real name is Davy D. Zabek, and his family, including infant Blackbeard, on God Valley. He's not here for random destruction, he's here to save his family. This completely recontextualizes the God Valley incident from a simple good versus evil clash to something much more morally complex. The chapter builds to its climax with Dragon successfully saving both infant twins, Shanks and Shamrock. He's protecting them as the island descends into complete chaos around them. But here's where things get really interesting from a theory perspective. We know from established canon that these twins end up separated. Shanks becomes a Yonko who values freedom, while Shamrock becomes a commander of the God's Knights enforcing tyranny. The most popular theory about how this separation happens involves the treasure chests at God Valley. Dragon, when confronted by Figerland Garling or another powerful enemy, hides baby Shanks in one of the prized chests. The Roger pirates then unknowingly take this chest as loot, which is how Shanks ends up with them. Meanwhile, Garling recaptures Shamrock, ensuring at least one Figerland heir returns to marry Geoise. There's another layer to this theory that's absolutely brilliant. Some fans believe that during this desperate escape attempt, Dragon ate one of the devil fruits from the prize chests, likely a wind or storm logia. This would explain both how he survived an encounter with someone as powerful as Garling and where his weather-controlling powers come from. It's such elegant storytelling if True Dragon gains his revolutionary power from the very prizes the Celestial Dragons were using to celebrate genocide. What's really fascinating is how this chapter is already changing the power scaling discussions in the community. If Blackbeard is a Buccaneer, that means his durability and strange abilities aren't just plot armor, they're racial traits. This puts him on a completely different level as a final antagonist for Luffy. He's not just strong, he's biologically designed to break the rules of the One Piece world. The dragon stock is through the roof right now, and rightfully so, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree are flooding social media. For years, Dragon has been memed as a fraud who talks big but doesn't act. This chapter shuts down all of that criticism. At 17, he did what even veteran Marines wouldn't dare. He stood up to the Celestial Dragons directly. But this also raises new questions. If Dragon was this bold and direct at 17, what changed him? The prevailing theory is that God Valley taught him a harsh lesson about the futility of direct confrontation. Maybe he barely escaped with his life. Maybe he watched good people die because of his impulsive action. Whatever happened in the rest of this incident transformed him from a young hothead into the patient, strategic leader who built the Revolutionary Army from the shadows. Some fans are connecting this to the Ohara incident, suggesting that was Dragon's second major formative experience. If God Valley showed him the cruelty of the Celestial Dragons, Ohara showed him what happens to those who oppose them without proper preparation. These two events together would explain why he adopted such a long-term, covert approach to revolution. Let's dive deeper into the Buccaneer revelation because this has massive implications for the entire series. The Buccaneers were persecuted by the world government for committing some great crime in the distant past. But they're also the keepers of the Nika legend. Now we know the Davy family. Rox and Blackbeard are Buccaneers. This creates an interesting parallel. Both Luffy and Blackbeard have connections to Nika, but they represent opposite interpretations of that power. Luffy embodies Nika as the liberator, the bringer of joy and freedom. Blackbeard, through his Buccaneer heritage, might represent what happens when that power is corrupted or used for domination instead of liberation. It's like two sides of the same coin, which makes their eventual confrontation even more meaningful. The introduction of the full God's Knights roster is something fans have been waiting for, and that Yeti with horns member has everyone speculating. Some think it could be related to the mysterious figure from the Void Century. Others believe it's a completely new race we haven't seen before. What's clear is that the God's Knights are far more powerful and important than we initially thought. Here's something really interesting about the timing of this chapter. We're getting these revelations about Dragon, Blackbeard, and the nature of the D clan right as the series is building toward its final saga. This isn't just backstory for backstory's sake, Oda is giving us the pieces we need to understand the final conflict. The community has also picked up on the mythological references in the Davy name. Beyond Davy Jones, there are connections to David and Goliath, with the D clan being the Davids who challenged the godlike celestial dragons. But the Davy branch seems to have lost sight of this, seeking to become the new Goliaths rather than remaining champions of the oppressed. One of the most emotional aspects of this chapter is seeing young Dragon's idealism. He's 17, the same age as many of the Straw Hats during their early adventures. He has that same reckless desire to protect the innocent. Consequences be damned. It makes his transformation into the calculating revolutionary leader even more tragic. The world beat that immediate heroism out of him and forced him to become something else. The fact that Blackbeard's mother is described as messy is such a small detail, but it speaks volumes. The Davy family wasn't living in luxury. They were slaves, broken down by the world government's cruelty. This adds layers to Blackbeard's character. His hunger for power might stem from never wanting to be powerless again, from watching his family suffer in chains. There's also the question of what happened to Blackbeard's mother after this. We know Teach survives, and eventually joins the Whitebeard pirates, but his mother is never mentioned again. Did she die at God Valley? Did Dragon's actions inadvertently lead to her death? These are the kinds of tragic connections Oda loves to reveal later. The implications for Shanks are massive too. If Dragon saved him as a baby, that means Shanks owes his entire life to the Revolutionary Army's founder. Does Shanks know this? Is this why he seems to walk the line between pirate and peacekeeper, because he understands both the need for freedom and the cost of revolution? And what about Shamrock? Growing up as a celestial dragon trained to be a god's knight, does he know his twin brother is out there? Does he know a revolutionary saved his life as an infant? The psychological complexity of these characters just keeps growing. The chapter ending with Dragon successfully saving both twins is such a powerful cliffhanger because we know it's temporary. We know these twins get separated. We know Dragon doesn't stay with the Marines. We know tragedy is coming, but we don't know exactly how it unfolds. That tension is masterful storytelling. From a narrative structure perspective, this chapter is doing so much heavy lifting. It's providing origins for multiple major players, explaining long-standing mysteries, and setting up future conflicts all at once. The God Valley incident isn't just a historical event anymore. It's the foundation for everything happening in the present storyline. The reveal about the Davy family being buccaneers also potentially explains Whitebeard's unusual size and strength. Some fans are theorizing he might have been part buccaneer too, which would explain his title as the world's strongest man and his ability to use the Gura Gura no Mi without destroying himself. This chapter is also vindication for all the fans who've been saying Dragon was never a fraud. The community has been split on his character for years, with some calling him the worst father in anime and others defending his strategic approach. Now we see he's always been willing to put his life on the line for others. He just learned that doing it impulsively gets people killed. The broader implications for the Revolutionary Army are huge too. If Dragon's revolutionary ideals were born from trying to save celestial dragon children and protecting slaves, it shows the organization was always about universal liberation, not just overthrowing the government for power. Let's talk about what this means for the final war. If Blackbeard is a buccaneer with the ability to hold multiple devil fruits, and if he potentially gets a third one, he becomes an almost unstoppable force. Luffy isn't just fighting another pirate, he's fighting someone whose very biology defies the rules of their world. The community is also speculating about whether other D-Clan members might have hidden racial heritage. Could the Monkey family have giant blood? Could the Gull family have connections to the ancient kingdom's royal line? Every D-carrier might represent a different aspect of the lost civilization. This chapter confirms that the God Valley incident was never just about Rocks versus Roger and Garp. It was about the systematic oppression of races like the Buccaneers, about young idealists like Dragon being forced to choose sides, about families being torn apart by the world government's cruelty. The fact that Dragon saves both twins equally without knowing their futures shows his pure moral character. He doesn't save them because they're special or because of their bloodline. He saves them because they're innocent children. That's the revolutionary way, and it started here at God Valley. As we build toward the climax of this flashback, every piece is falling into place. The pirates are arriving, the Marines are mobilizing, the God's Knights are ready, and in the middle of it all, a 17-year-old Marine has just committed treason to save innocent lives. The powder keg is lit, and the explosion is going to reshape the world. So, what are your theories about how Dragon gets separated from the twins? Do you think he really ate a devil fruit from the treasure chests? How do you think Rox's identity as Davy D. Sebek changes our understanding of Blackbeard's motivations? And what role do you think the God's Knights played in the incident's outcome? Drop your theories in the comments below. What other Buccaneers might be hidden in the current story? And how does this change your predictions for the final war? Hit that like button if this breakdown got you hyped for the rest of the God Valley flashback. Subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss my analysis when Chapter 1161 drops. And remember, the Will of D might not be one will at all, but an ancient conflict that's about to explode in the present. I'll see you all when the next chapter reveals even more world-shaking truths about our favorite pirates and revolutionaries.